Live from Tampa Bay streaming news leader, this is ABC Action News, taking action for you.
All new at 6, COVID-19 on campus. Our I-Team finding out how school districts plan to address outbreaks in the classroom. Good evening and welcome to ABC Action News at 6. I'm Jamison Euler.
And I'm Wendy Ryan. Thank you for joining us. We want to send it right over to Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips. Den, everyone is keeping a close eye on the tropics.
Yeah, Wendy, because so many folks were concerned with a west potential track that it could have a big impact on our area and our weekend plans. But we've always kind of earmarked Thursday evening as the area and the time that we'd have a really good idea where this is going to go. We've reached Thursday evening, and we do feel as though we know where this is headed, getting stronger, and instead of a west track, more of a north-northwest track eventually, very near the east coast of Florida, unfortunately through the Bahamas, same areas that were devastated by Dorian last year. And there is the possibility this could be stronger than what we're seeing right now. This is a very large storm, though it usually takes longer for them to get explosively strong as opposed to the ones that, just like that, a smaller storm can really get going. Winds of 60 miles an hour. Recentering just north of Hispaniola, so now it does appear there's an opportunity for some additional development. So where is it going? As always, the stronger the storm is, the more likely it is to go north. And because this is stronger, we believe that's exactly what will happen. At this point, the official track from the Hurricane Center keeps it offshore of the east coast of Florida. Now, remember, it's large, and the tropical storm force winds extend quite a bit, but I think it's going to start to get smaller as it gets closer to the coast, and that would mean the east coast of Florida right on the fringe of the heaviest winds. But I believe by far the strongest winds will be offshore, not impacting directly the east coast of Florida based on this current track, and for us, very little of any impact whatsoever. Again, based on that current track. For us tonight, we are tracking a few storms out there, and we'll take a live look at the Titan Doppler radar coming up in a couple of minutes.
All right, thanks, Dan. We'll check back with you. As Florida school districts work to reopen campuses safely for students and staff, our I-Team is taking a closer look at district plans in the event a student or staff member tests positive for the coronavirus.
As I-Team investigator Katie LaGrone shows us, many of those plans remain unclear.
My turn?
If you're a Florida parent, it's safe to say the choice to send your child back to campus this year remains nothing short
I'm still ahead of you guys.
of nerve-wracking.
We went back and forth a lot. Perfect.
For James Shaw and his wife, the decision boiled down to a deadline and an 8-year-old's desire.
She's had to hang out with mom and dad for like 6 months, and I wanted her to be able to be with her friends again.
For Barbara Mellon, it's life for a single working mom.
I don't have much of a choice.
But still a work in progress, what Florida school districts plan to do if a student or staff member tests positive for the coronavirus.
I don't have the what-if plan.
We surveyed Florida's 67 school districts and asked a series of questions, hearing back from just about half. Of those who responded, all will require the person quarantined for up to 14 days, what the CDC recommends. Less than 10 will mandate at least one negative test before the person can return to campus. And a handful plan to make the entire class get tested. But most school districts who we heard back from said if there's a positive case on campus, they'll seek guidance from their local health department.
And the idea that, oh, yes, we'll just call the health department and they'll send someone over. I mean, it's pie in the sky.
Dr. Mona Mungat is a Tampa Bay immunologist and member of the Committee to Protect Medicare, which recently warned Florida's governor that without more safety measures, schools could become COVID-19 super spreaders. She's concerned most school plans rely on families to self-report symptoms, and health departments already strapped for resources and staff.
All of these school reopen plans are based on almost like a fairy tale scenario.
The hurt means you go again.
Leaving parents to play a game of chance.
Do I have concerns? I do. My wife does. We're nervous. There's no question about it. And yet I truly believe that they have our best interests in mind.
In addition to helping with case-by-case guidance, we're told county health departments will also help schools contact trace. I'm I-Team investigator Katie LaGrone, taking action for you.
Now to the numbers. Florida hitting another record increase in deaths for the third day in a row. Today, 253 people lost their lives due to COVID-19. That brings the statewide death toll to more than 6,500. Florida also has more than 460,000 total confirmed coronavirus cases. This after reporting another 9,900 new infections today. Here's the county by county breakdown. Hillsborough County reporting 467 new cases, Pinellas with 322, and the entire Bay Area reporting just under 1,500.
Hillsborough County saw an over 100% increase in the number of COVID-19 deaths over the last week, but a leading health expert says what's behind the numbers show we're actually headed in the right direction. New data presented to the Emergency Policy Group indicates fewer people are showing up to hospitals with flu-like symptoms. So that increase in deaths over the last 7 days, we're told, is a delayed picture.
And unfortunately, the most lagging indicator is death. And that's going to continue to rise, or at least not decline, probably for another 2 weeks. So we still have a long way to go through this current phase of the epidemic.
He says this figure shows the pandemic was, quote, out of control in the county about a month ago, but says other indicators are now pointing toward a better direction, thanks in large part to the mask mandate. New at 6, a man who lived his life helping others is being remembered by his friends tonight. He did so much for his community, and sadly, he passed away this month.
Our Heather Lee shows us what being a real-life superhero really meant.
So here we are out on patrol.
He called it his gimmick, that spandex suit and bright blue boots.
Yeah, I've had a few close calls, prevented a few muggings.
But for Dale Popple, his caring nature and instinct to help wasn't just an act.
One of the big things that he would do is helping the homeless.
Although he did prefer looking cool while doing it.
I wish I had a magic watch like Johnny Sacco or something where I could push the button and my gimmick would magically appear.
Born from a love of comic books and pop culture, Dale was a real-life superhero.
He was always so, larger than life. He was always so happy in his online interactions.
He loved visiting sick kids in hospitals and hopping in his supermobile, looking for drivers stranded on the side of the road in need of help.
There was a car that was flipped over like in a ditch or a pond, and him and his wife were in the car, and he pulls over really quick and hops out of the car and literally dives underwater into the pond to try and, see if there's anybody in the car that needs to be saved.
Tony Armour became fast friends with Dale 20 years ago and recently took footage he collected over the last decade to create a documentary that would go on to win 25 film festival awards around the world.
After, the sort of our festival run and everything, he always told me that the film is his legacy. And that's the last thing that he texted me as well.
Dale took his own life 2 weeks ago.
Every time I see somebody in need now, the first thing I'll think of is Dale, and what would Dale do?
Can't wrap my head around that he's gone.
Armour wants to put a mural up somewhere honoring his friend, spreading a message of hope, and highlighting the importance of suicide prevention. The Crisis Center of Tampa Bay says if you are struggling, reach out to someone you trust and talk about it, or call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. Heather Lee, ABC Action News.
Heather, thank you. A former presidential candidate has died from the coronavirus. 74-year-old Herman Cain was hospitalized earlier this month. His Twitter account said he was being treated with oxygen. Cain served as co-chair of Black Voices for Trump, and he was one of the surrogates at President Trump's June 20th rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's still not known where he contracted the virus. The U.S. economy has experienced its worst drop on record amid the pandemic lockdown. The broadest measure of the economy, the gross domestic product, fell by an annual rate of 32.9% in the second quarter. The GDP dropped just 5% in the first quarter.
The governor says he has faith in Florida's vote-by-mail system. That's despite President Trump questioning whether to delay Election Day to prevent fraud and inaccuracy. But Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders hears from Democratic strategists who say it may end up hurting Mr. Trump in the Sunshine State.
As Floridians contemplate voting by mail this November.
It's not broken, so let's keep doing it,
I think I've always voted in person.
President Trump continues throwing doubt on expansion of the practice to help ease COVID's spread. He tweeted 2020's election would be the most inaccurate and fraudulent in history, then questioned delaying the vote, a very unlikely scenario needing congressional approval.
So he asked for the election to be delayed?
Governor DeSantis tried to soften the president's words during an unrelated press briefing. The fellow Republican suggesting there is confusion on the issue.
I support Florida's system. I would not support just mass mailing everyone a ballot regardless of whether they've asked for it, because I do think that ends up creating avenues for fraud.
Though some believe the anti-mail rhetoric is poised to undermine Democratic turnout, party strategists believe the president is hurting himself.
In this case, it may backfire on him.
That's Katie Merrill. Their Democratic public opinion firm recently surveyed about 900 likely Florida voters, finding a huge partisan divide on the issue. The vast majority of Trump voters, 89%, believe vote by mail increases fraud. GOP skepticism is so deep, 13% said they would be less likely to vote if automatically sent a ballot in the mail.
People will not be voting. Particularly actually on the Republican side.
If that happens, considering how tight the race is, could it be enough to cost Trump this key swing state? At the Capitol, Forrest Saunders, ABC Action News.
A civil rights icon is laid to rest. Coming up, the final goodbyes and honors for a man who helped shape America.
Plus, school this year is a challenge itself, but it may be particularly difficult for kids on an individual education plan. We'll take a look at what they can expect. Dennis?
Yeah, Jameson, looking outside, we've got a few showers, a couple of storms, but some drier air has settled into the area. How will that impact your weekend forecast with a tropical storm or a hurricane heading this way? That's all coming up.
Hang up for.
Bells ringing at churches across the country today to honor civil rights icon John Lewis. Former presidents and other U.S. dignitaries said goodbye to the longtime congressman. His funeral today, wrapping up 6 days of memorials, paying tribute to his life and his legacy. Former President Barack Obama delivered the eulogy.
He, as much as anyone in our history, brought this country a little bit closer to our highest ideals.
Representative Lewis has been buried in a cemetery in Atlanta. He died July 17th at the age of 80 after a month-long battle with pancreatic cancer.
Here at ABC Action News, we're giving you guidance on going back to school as students return next month. Going back to the classroom may present unique challenges for students with IEPs or individualized education plans, whether online or in person. Our Mary O'Connell walks you through what your child can expect.
Daniel is a quirky, fun Minecraft king.
Jennifer Rogers' 16-year-old son will head back to his Hillsborough County school in just a matter of weeks.
He has a very diverse neurological array of disabilities, but they're considered invisible disabilities. And most people that would meet him would be like, oh, he's like any other typical child.
Daniel is an ESE student, a program for those with exceptional learning needs. His IEP lays out what services, accommodations, and modifications his school will provide to help meet his needs at the level of his peers. Daniel has received occupational, speech, and counseling therapies through school, but the pandemic brought on difficulties when schools were brought online this spring, worrying his mom for the new school year.
The teachers were trying to scramble, not used to this technology.
There's no guidebook for this. There's no class I took in college for how to teach in a pandemic. You know?
ESE teachers like Caitlin Cook quickly pivoted, supporting their students and parents over phone and video, which she says they're ready to do again this fall.
There were instances where I would reach out to parents and say, hey, like, how's this going for you? Is this working? Should we do this differently?
In its reopening plan, Pinellas County laid out measures from cohorting students, frequent cleaning for sensory equipment, and face shields in instances like speech therapy. For e-learners in Hillsborough County, the district says the IEP team will meet to make sure the district's online program is individualized for each student. They also say services may be provided through calls, virtual therapies, and other available distance-based learning approaches.
ESE teachers are incredibly resilient. They're incredibly great problem solvers, and that's what they do. They put their heads together and they try to figure out how to make the situation work.
ESE teachers stress talking to your specific teacher or district if you have any questions heading into the new school semester. Districts also tell us they're committed to providing a high-quality education for all learners, no matter the teaching model, during the COVID-19 crisis. In Hillsborough County, Mary O'Connell, ABC Action News.
Good evening, everybody. We've got some scattered showers, but not at the beach. The beach looks amazing. We're in for another spectacular sunset. The only showers we might see along the coast could be maybe midday tomorrow into the early afternoon. Right now, there's your sea breeze that extends just to the north of I-4, and there will be a few more showers and a couple of thunderstorms along that boundary over the next hour. There's what we were showing you last hour. Now there's been one lightning strike south of the Notasassa. It does go over to the east to the northwest of Lakeland and also around Kathleen. A few more showers down across Manatee County as well, but those are actually winding down. Still along the sea breeze boundary, I expect a few more storms until maybe 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Some drier air is settled in, and that's why our coverage today quite a bit lower, and our afternoon highs a little bit higher. The drier the air, the warmer it can go. That's why deserts are the hottest spot on Earth. Upper 80s to low 90s right now for Bartow at 93, Plant City 90, Largo 87, as is Palm Harbor, Sarasota 90, upper 80s across most of the area after highs in the low to middle 90s at 95 in Winter Haven, 90 in Lakeland, 92 in Tampa and in Sarasota. Most folks a couple of degrees above average. Right now, there's been some rain at the airport, which is why down to 78 degrees. Otherwise, upper 80s to low 90s from St. Pete to Sarasota. There's the satellite. You can see that line of rain along the sea breeze, but overall coverage today, and the way I see it, probably tomorrow, at about 20, maybe 30%. So whatever's out there through 9 or 10 o'clock quickly fizzles shortly thereafter. The rest of the overnight, partly cloudy to clear. Waking up in the morning to mostly sunny skies. A few showers right along the bay about 12 to 1 o'clock. So you could hear some thunder rumbling early afternoon for the lunch hour, but otherwise coverage in the afternoon and evening still down to about 20 to 30%. And then, of course, that takes us into the weekend, where the tropics are going to be giving us our next weather situation. Now, in fact, on Saturday, you could argue some of the moisture coming in Saturday afternoon could be some of the outer moisture, not really bands, but outer moisture from this tropical storm, Isaias. And as we go through the next 24 hours, this will continue to get stronger, but the track, we are pretty much locked in. If you remember a couple of days ago, we were saying once it goes north of Hispaniola, gets through that mountainous area, as we'll know what's left, how strong it's going to go, and where it's going to track. A stronger storm will go more toward the north, a weaker one toward the west. And that was the big problem, the big question mark. Would this island beat it up enough that it would go more to the west as a more ragged system, but impact our weekend? And we have that answer. That answer is no. It's strong enough now with winds of 60 miles an hour that it will go through the Bahamas, unfortunately, and maybe even as a minimal hurricane, and then get very close to the coast of Florida Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and into early on Sunday. You look at this, this is why it maintained its strength. It is so large. A small system usually gets gobbled up by these mountains, but because it was so big, it was able to maintain its integrity and probably now will strengthen. So there's the forecast track. Believe it or not, landfall, the first landfall could actually be in the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. But here's a closer look. If this track verifies, and I'm pretty solid on the way this is looking right now, heaviest wind stays offshore, and we're talking on the east coast of Florida. For us, next to no impact. Highlands, Polk County, maybe some bands and some gusty winds at time later Saturday into Sunday. But even along the immediate coastline, while they'll see tropical storm force winds, it would literally be right along the immediate coastline. Look at the spaghetti models. A lot of agreement and eventually landfall, or at least brushing the Outer Banks. But you see right here, this is on Saturday. There's your hurricane force winds well offshore. And even the tropical storm force winds just brushing along the coast, nowhere near our area. And then it moves off to the northeast. That's the way we see it now. We all know the tropics can change quickly, so stick around. We'll be updating 24/7. For the next 7 days, typical Florida weather, even a little drier than normal tomorrow and Saturday, highs in the low 90s.
All right, thanks, Dan. Well, ain't no party like a Gronk party. There are plans in the works to bring one to Tampa Bay as well. Coming up, where the self-described NFL party animal wants to celebrate the Super Bowl this year.
You're watching ABC Action News at 6. Also available as part of our 24/7 streaming news channel on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Twitter.
Welcome back. Tonight, after a 4-month break because of the coronavirus, professional basketball is finally back. NBA teams have been playing in a bubble, isolated from the outside world and any contact at ESPN's complex near Orlando. So far, the bubble has not been breached by the virus. The league says out of 344 players, none have tested positive for the coronavirus.
We wanted it, fans wanted it, it's good just for the whole world. Let's get back to it. Let's get back to the season.
In the meantime, Major League Baseball is still dealing with a coronavirus outbreak impacting at least 2 teams. The MLB now requiring teams to add coronavirus protocol compliance officers to travel with the team to make sure they are traveling and following with safety protocols.
The party animal of the NFL wants to throw a huge Super Bowl bash in the Bay Area. Rob Gronkowski wants a local island to be transformed into Gronk Beach. The event was held for the first time in Miami for the Super Bowl this past February, and more than 3,000 people came out for it. Now Gronk is eyeing Treasure Island. City leaders are negotiating an agreement with the production company organizing the event, Medium Rare, and if approved, it will be on Saturday, February 7th. Of course, that is only if the coronavirus subsides by then. Dennis?
Yeah, Wendy, one more look at Florida's most accurate 7-day forecast. Rain coverage only about 20% tomorrow. Now, as we head into the weekend, we'll be tracking Isaias off to the south and east of us. It will get close enough to the East Coast where they're going to see tropical storm force winds. I do not expect that in our area. Highlands, some gustier winds, eastern Polk as well. Most of us actually partly sunny and just a typical summer day.
All right, thank you, Dennis. ABC Action News is always on when you need us.
Make sure to download our 24/7 streaming news channel to your favorite connected device. We'll see you back here at 11.